Hi everyone, this is Chitika,
Hi everyone, this is Selena.
and you're listening to the Working Knowledge Podcast. Welcome to our second episode of our second series. Um, if you are just tuning in, we are currently in the middle of our story time session. We just wrapped up the last episode, or the first episode actually, last week. That's what I meant to say. And had some really fun. I had a fun time talking about Greek mythology and some lesser known tales from an otherwise pretty well explored part of the world.
hmm
So today we're gonna take a big sort of jump geographically, and we are in China today for our story time.
Woohoo!
So yeah, we're just gonna dive right in. We have some cool things lined up, and I feel the need to advance and apologize for the butchering of words and names
Yeah.
I am going to do. I have
Me
Google
too.
Translate
A
open.
little bit, me too. Because, I'm Chinese, but I was born in the United States, so I don't have any prior knowledge of words and pronunciation, other than like a little bit, but yeah, it's okay.
You got this. We
Yeah.
have Google Translate, and you'll do fine. I'm sure you'll do fine. I'll
Well,
worst case
yeah.
I'll make you look better by
Thank
comparison.
you. I thought we would start out pretty easy. I think we're gonna talk about the Chinese zodiac first. Am I right?
Yeah, let's do it.
um, which I think is like a really interesting, like astrological, lunar calendar classification kind of thing. Do you know what sign you are, or not sign? Do you know what animal you are? Sorry.
No, actually.
Okay, well we can find out. The Chinese
Yeah.
zodiac. So we did a little bit of research on this. I'm reading off of Wikipedia right now, which is slightly reliable, slightly not reliable. Um, it's a 12-year classification cycle on the lunar calendar, which is like super popular in East Asian countries, which includes China, obviously, um, and Japan and South Korea and let's see, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Thailand. Um, it kind of is like similar to the like Western like astrological signs, like the Aquarius or what are you?
I'm a Capricorn.
You're a Capricorn. I'm Aquarius. It's similar in that there's like an overarching like I am an Aquarius, but then there's like a
Mm.
whatever rising or that kind of thing.
Oh,
So
right.
the cycle responds to years rather than months. So in like the Western one, it's like every month is a different um, astrological sign, but in Chinese zodiac terms, every year is a different animal.
I
So
see.
yeah, actually, one thing is also that people don't know is that the Chinese zodiac is supposed to be based on the lunar calendar, not the actual like the calendar that we use. So
The
in the
Roman calendar.
calendar we use, I'm an ox, but in the lunar calendar, which is the correct calendar, I'm a rat. So you're probably what you hold on. December 27th.
She remembers my birthday.
Of
97.
course.
I was almost in 98, baby. Isn't that so weird to think
That's
about?
crazy. I don't we probably should have figured this out first, right?
It's well, I found one thing. I think this is I don't know what calendar this is based on, but it says here February 97 to January 98 is ox.
Okay, so yeah, you're an ox. Oh, we're compatible. Okay, so I guess like the Chinese zodiac also has like compatibility and like whatever.
Ooh. Oh, so
But
okay.
yeah.
It's cool.
Anyways, I thought it was just interesting to like talk about the origin story of it.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear.
So there's a lot of different stories, like for the beginning of quote unquote the animals, the zodiacs. Um, the one is called the Great Race, which I think is kind of interesting. It's kind of like similar to like the what's that one fable, the race, like the one
The
where
rat, the not rat, the rabbit, the hare, and the tortoise.
oh yeah, that one. It's like similar in that like they're trying to like get somewhere. But the Great Race is the story that tells of when the Jade Emperor decreed that the years on the calendar would be named for the animal and the order that they reached him. So whatever order gets there would be in that order. So
Okay.
there's like it's like kind of long. I'll like briefly talk about it.
Okay.
Let's see. The first in the beginning, the cat and the rat were very bad at swimming, but they're both really smart. So this kind of like tells the backstory of like each animal as well. So they
Okay.
decided the best way to get across was to hop on the back of the ox. But then the rat pushed the cat into the water and rushed to the emperor first. So the rat is number one. And then the ox had to settle for second place. And then the third to come was the tiger. And then the fourth was the rabbit, by jumping from one stone to another. So it's like really nimble. And then the fifth was the dragon. And the dragon explained why it was not first. They had to stop by a village and brought the rain for the people, and therefore was held back. And then saved the rabbit. So then the rabbit was the fifth animal. It was like the dragon has like good nature, I guess.
I see.
Yeah. And then the sixth animal was the horse, I think. Oh, no, sorry. The sixth animal was the snake, who had hidden himself on the hoof of the horse. So the snake, like, hid on the hoof.
Right.
And then
But like the
became
snake
sixth.
didn't move by itself. Yeah.
Yeah, so the snake became sixth, and the horse was seventh. And then eventually the goat, the monkey, and the rooster came to the gate. There's like a bunch of different ways that they got there, but they were next. And then the 11th animal was a dog. It spent its time to play in the water, so that's why it did not win earlier. And then it needed a good bath and blah blah blah, and it almost didn't make it to the finish line. And then last was the pig, because the pig was hungry in the middle of the race, so it stopped and ate something and then fell asleep. And then it woke and finished the race in 12th place. It was the last animal to arrive. So, and also the cat drowned. So,
Oh,
after the rat pushed it into the water.
wait, so the cat just didn't finish?
Nope. That's why
There's no cat?
there's no cat on the zodiac, right? I don't think so. No, there isn't. That's why it is said that cats hunt rats and also hate water. So that's the origin of that. Because the rat pushed the cat into the water and drowned.
Again, it's we were talking about this last time, but I like how there are explanations for like everyday phenomena through this really like fantastical story.
Isn't it cool?
Yeah,
I think it's
that is. I'm like way more sympathetic towards cats now.
Yeah. There's like other variations, but yeah, that's like I think that's the one that's common, and at least that's the one that's on Wikipedia, so sorry if that's slightly incorrect.
I don't know.
Yeah. But
It's
the rat
fine.
is like cunning, so I'm like very, yeah.
What are you? Kill a cat to get ahead. I think I said I was ox.
Oh, yeah, you're ox. I guess you're just like very, I don't know. It doesn't say.
What was how did the ox win again?
And naive. You're kind-hearted and naive.
You would call me naive.
I would say you're naive. You're also kind-hearted.
Oh, thank
You're
you.
not that naive.
Yeah, maybe not anymore.
Yeah.
I'm getting wiser with age. I need to stop like talking like an old person and then get upset when people
Yeah, because you're the youngest of all of us. Of our
I
whole
know. I always
like by
forget
like
that.
almost a whole year.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're almost you're like 11 months younger than I am.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna turn 23 and then you'll be 24 and I'll be like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Maria is like a full year older too. She's December 31st, but 96.
Oh yeah, she's like wholly a full year older.
Yeah. But you guys are closer in age than
Mm-hmm.
I am to either of you. And that's like, that just doesn't quite, because she and I have our birthdays in the same month.
Yeah.
So it's like really confusing. Maybe oh my gosh, I'm a Gen Zer. That's why I'm the only person in our crew that has a TikTok.
No, we're all Gen Z, aren't we? Anyone born after 96?
I think so. Yeah, but I think we're on the cusp. You know,
okay.
Like how much after 96 are you born? It's like how far into. So compared to someone born in 2000, where like we have some millennial traits because we were like
on the border, yeah.
We're confused. belong nowhere.
Alright. Do you want to tell the quick
Yeah.
yin yang story? Because I think
Yeah,
that's
let's
cool.
do it. I was looking. So the interesting thing is, like, I think there's a lot of stories like inspired by yin and yang, because essentially, from what I've read, it's just like it's a concept, right? It's like a way of looking at the world. And one thing I know for sure in terms of like what the origin story of yin and yang is that they were like created out of chaos when the universe was first like formed. So that's like the common sentence I keep finding, and of course now I can't see it anywhere.
I have it up. It's hold on.
Where did they go? Oh yeah. In Chinese mythology, yin and yang were born from chaos when the universe was first created, and they are believed to exist in harmony at the center of the earth. During the creation, their achievement of balance in the cosmic egg. I don't know what the cosmic egg is. I couldn't find
It's
this
like
out.
it's like we can go into that.
Okay, you can
Another
answer. Yeah.
episode. It's yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, another episode. Oh, okay. Anyway, their achievement of balance in the cosmic egg allowed for the birth of Pangu, the first human. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And then the first gods, and there are three, who were also born from yin and yang. So it's like that's like I think the part of the myth that's like kind of constant. And then I think a lot of people have been inspired to write stories about like yin the goddess, yang the god. And then there's like a lot of tales built around that. Like
Yeah, because yin is like considered more like feminine or something,
Yeah.
right? And then
Yeah.
yang is the more masculine, but they all have like kind of different traits and
yeah, well, like
combinations of different things.
if somebody somehow hasn't seen like the diagram, it's a circle, and there's two like sort of teardrop shaped like
Yeah.
shapes, and one is black and one is white. So white one is yang, black one is yin, and then there's like a white dot in the black teardrop, and then a black dot in the white teardrop. That took so much focus to say that correctly.
It's like a balance of space basically and like that kind of thing. So
Like
neither
dark
is
and
superior.
light, male
Yeah.
and female. So yeah, in a way, obviously, it's like very binary, but it's the whole I think message is about like balance and
Yeah, yeah.
coexistence. That they're like naturally opposite forces, but they have to both be there for like balance and non-chaotic situations to exist.
Yeah. But back
There's
to
also
that back to the cosmic egg thing. Have you never heard of that before?
I don't
Oh,
know.
it's a very, I guess I don't want to like say it wrong, but it's like a very common fantasy
Like
creation
element.
myth. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So there's like different ways that I guess I learned this in my fantasy and myth class very briefly. But there's different ways that different artists or authors depict, or religions even depict, the creation of the earth. So there's one that's like the god, like God itself, like in Christianity. They created everything, and all of its beings and stuff like that. And then there's like the different like the multiple gods, and they're responsible for like different parts of it. And then the cosmic egg is like, I guess it's kind of like the Big Bang in a way.
Oh,
where-
like the universe hatched.
yeah, it just like it cracked open and birthed all, right?
Oh.
And there's like a lot of different cosmology myths and stuff like that that are related to that. It's really apparent in a lot of cultures, so Egyptian, Babylonian, Orphic, Indian, other blah 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 cultures. But yeah, it's really cool.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe
So
that'll
I
be
mean,
a
I
theme
guess
we'll
like
see.
in the cosmic egg, technically, like there's versions where there's like a creator deity that lays the egg, and then kind of it cracks open, and then all is being. But yeah, there's different versions of it.
That's very interesting. That sounds familiar now that you've described it, because we can obviously we're gonna save this for another episode, but I guess spoiler alert. I was thinking we should do like Mesoamerican creation
Yeah,
myths.
'cause I don't know
'Cause,
anything about that.
oh my gosh, they're like honestly they're so interesting. But
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of, yeah, like I think creation myths are really cool to see across the world too,
Yeah.
because on some level there's like very specific uh like concepts about how the world
Mm-hmm.
was created, but on some level there are a lot of common threads between all of those
Mm-hmm.
approaches too. And then like you said, like the cosmic egg sounds a lot like the Big Bang. So it's very interesting to compare like the sort of, I don't know, scientific version of how the universe came to be versus like
Mm-hmm.
the stories, the myth, and like what are the overlaps, because there definitely are some.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of them. And
Yeah.
it's so crazy that like cultures like across the world have similar creation
Yeah.
myths
Yeah.
without yeah.
Communicating, because these come
Mm-hmm.
way pre globalization.
Yeah, very pretty.
I couldn't say pre enough times.
Yeah.
Um, but it's,
That's cool.
yeah, yeah, very fascinating. We
Mm-hmm.
can save that. Maybe we can do like a like the close episode in this series
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something like that. Anyway,
I love that.
yeah, I didn't go down this route, but there are like a lot of like Wattpad stories, like love stories inspired by yin and yang. I was like, I don't want to. Not today. That's not.
Maybe another
Uh,
time.
maybe later. We'll see if it's like, I don't know if I want to share that. It like,
Mm-hmm.
but there is like, I did find this like eternal love story of yin and yang.
Yeah. Well, there's a
Um,
lot of just like Chinese love stories. The next one that I was going to talk about is quote unquote called the Chinese Romeo and Juliet.
ooh,
If you're ready to move on.
I'm yes. This, I think it's a perfect segue since we were talking about love stories.
Yeah.
So
Um
I'm excited.
so I think this one's called Butterfly Lovers. I think some Chinese people will know. This is like the only one that I've ever heard of, and that's because like I found the sheet music for it when I used to play flute and piano, so I like used to play it. I'll play you the concerto later. It's
I'm
really
excited.
beautiful. Or actually, hold on. Let me play it in the background because I think that's like
Okay, you're gonna have to edit it into the.
yeah, I will.
Oh,
Hold
that's
on.
exciting. Wait, we should have done this. I'm so ready. I might be too. I might be like crying too much to do my like closing story, so I'm gonna give you a
Oh,
heads up.
okay. Can you see? Oh, I'm sharing the wrong. Hold on.
I'm so ready.
I have to share my other desktop.
I feel like I should bring like popcorn or a plushie or something to hold.
Wait. Okay, so this is actually from the Shanghai Symphony Orchestra. The Butterfly Lovers Violin Concerto. I used to love this. It was like so pretty. Anyways, the story. So this folk tale involves two lovers. One named Liang Shanbo, which is the scholar from an ordinary family, who's the male, and then Ying Tai, who is the only daughter of a wealthy family. So back in this dynasty, women were not allowed to go to school. So the girl Ying Tai, she tried to persuade her parents and whatnot, but eventually she just dressed up as a man in disguise to go to school, which is like a very similar common thread apparently in these stories. And on the way to the school from her hometown, she met the guy, Shan Bo, and then they became best friends. So over time, they just got really close, and she fell in love with him. Classic. She eventually, 3 years later, her family asked
3 years.
her to.
Sorry.
Yeah, I know. Well, they were in school for a while.
Oh, okay.
Eventually, 3 years later, her family asked her to return home. And then, obviously, the male friend, Sean Bull, was very sad. So he walked him home. I guess her home, technically, but he thought it was a him. And this scene was like a very famous scene in the play, apparently.
This walk
But
back. Okay.
yeah. This walk back, this journey. So during this whole journey, she like tried to like subtly hint to him that she was a woman, and she's like, "Oh, like I'll like introduce you to like my sister who is like so attractive," which is actually her. But Shanbo was like really stupid, so he didn't like figure it out.
Well, can't blame him. I feel like probably he's not expecting it.
But eventually later, he figured out that she was a woman, and they were like obviously best friends, and somehow he decided to propose. I don't know the whole story behind that. But Ying Tai, the girl's parents, because she's from a wealthy family, they already arranged her to marry somebody else, a man from another rich family, which is tragic. And Shan Bo, which is the man, became critically ill and died soon after.
What?
Like, yeah, I know, it's like really sudden. I'm sure there's more to the story, but I'm like skipping over it. So then this is like the very end, the dramatic part. I don't remember if this concerto part is like from the journey, like that we're listening to, or if it's from the very end when they're
well, it sounds really sad.
This whole thing happens. But on the day of the marriage of Ying Tai's marriage, there were strong winds that prevented the wedding procession from like continuing when they were passing the bridge next to Shan Bo's grave. So she stopped to pay her respects at his grave, and suddenly, this music part does not fit the story, but suddenly the lightning and the thunder split open the grave, and Ying Tai, she was so upset and she didn't want to get married to this other rich man. So she jumped into the grave, into her lover's grave, and everyone's like, oh my god, what happened? And then suddenly the grave reopened and a pair of butterflies came out and flew away together. So yeah, that's the story. But there's like a lot of different like adaptations to it, and obviously there's like a play and stuff like that. But it's like about like everlasting love, and it's similar to Romeo and Juliet in that there's like a tragedy, but there's not like actual like relationship between them. I think it's just like comparatively small resemblance, you know.
Oh man.
Yeah. But this like concerto, I used to play flute like back in high school for a band.
Really?
So there's like, yeah, did you not know that?
No.
No, yeah, I used to play flute, and there's like aside from the violin part, there's like a very significant like flute solo that I used to love playing. It's really hard to play on the piano though. So
I was gonna say, yeah, because when you said you found the sheet music, I was like, oh, so must be piano.
Oh, add. Yeah. But a tragic story, and
It's a good story.
yeah, there's a lot of art that like has been made for it, and I kind of want to see like the play or the musical or whatever it is.
The performance.
I'm curious, the performance.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that it's like you said, it's kind of commonly put up as a show. So it's I wonder if, I'm sure there's like versions to watch online, like live versions, or I'm assuming like the journey part is a big
that's a big part of it, yeah.
Of like the production. That sounds so lovely. Wow.
It's like, I guess like I think it's interesting like when we were talking about these the Greek stories versus like these Chinese stories, they're so like the tone is like so different, don't you think?
Yeah.
It's like this one's much more ethereal. I don't know if it's maybe just because of the butterfly turning thing.
Maybe. I think it's also like the music does help, but you're right in that like I mean, we could have, it depends also on what stories we chose, but there is definitely a little bit more of like, like floaty, ethereal, sort of like, I'm imagining a lot of like flowers and like,
Yeah, I think it might have to do that a lot of like Chinese folklore. I mean, it's really, really old, obviously. It's older than like Greek myth, supposedly.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah. Chinese culture is like like way back. Supposedly the most longest documented culture in the world. But it's I guess every dynasty is different, but I think it's because like a lot of Chinese folklore is like very fable-y. They have like a lot of lessons or like lessons about like facing adversity or like love and blah blah blah, everlasting something or other. So yeah,
that's really cool. But yeah, maybe there's like a timelessness. Maybe I think that's the thing.
Yeah, maybe
this like the sense of like the cosmos and like time seems like an important thing, like beginning of time, creation of the world. I know we are discussing slightly more like creation style stories, but like even this Although in a way there's a parallel because, the butterfly lovers, if you think of it as an origin story for butterflies, like that's sort of one way to do that
That's true.
explanation of everyday things or like, creatures or whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
if a butterfly sits on like what's the flower?
What?
Um,
Is there
what's the
like a
flower
specific
like Apollo's lover? What was his name?
hyacinthus?
Yeah, yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
It's like a little fun overlap. Maybe if I ever
Mm.
see a butterfly around like a flower that's in Greek
Oh,
mythology, I'll flip out.
I appreciate this story and everything, but I absolutely hate butterflies. I know this is an
Me too.
unpopular. Oh my
No,
god,
me
really?
too. Yeah.
Okay, good, good. I know this is like a really unpopular opinion, but I truly, truly, truly despise butterflies. I hate the way they fly. I hate moths too. I think that might be
Oh,
where it comes
same.
from. But I cannot stand them. And I know people think that they're gorgeous and there's like butterfly
No,
houses and like different
no,
conservatories, but I cannot do it. I cannot go
no.
in there. Mm-mm.
I like them like as jewelry, not like real butterflies. Like I like the shape of like wings
Mm.
as
They're
jewelry.
pretty. I'll admit that, but I just
Their
don't
wings are
like the way they
pretty.
fly.
I also hate like okay, I think it I used to really love butterflies and then we did the whole conservatory thing for a while. And at some point in some butterfly garden, I saw like just the body, like the actual butterfly, because it had its like wings like folded back
Mm-hmm.
and it was like on a little like net thing. So I could only see it like as an insect. And I was like, these are still bugs.
Yeah.
And that just completely ruined it for me. I was like, I don't care how pretty your wings are, because when your wings are folded, no, no, you're a
They
giant,
look like it's just a
giant
bug.
bug. It's just
Yeah.
a big bug.
They're really big, and I'm sorry, but the way they fly is so like jerky. I just can't do
Yeah.
it. I can't do it.
Ugh. Blah.
Yeah. Well, I'm
Well,
glad that we agree on that because a lot of people hate me so much for that fact. They're like, "How can you hate butterflies? They're so pretty."
my God,
Anyways,
that's so funny.
all right.
Uh,
Do you want to talk about our last one, which is like the one
yeah.
that inspired this
The
episode?
where it all began. Sorry, there's like a really speaking of bugs, there's like a huge bug outside my window, and I know it's away from me, but just knowing it's there is really bothering me.
Mm-hmm,
So I'm
mm-hmm.
slightly distracted right now. But yes, I'm glad you told this story because there's a bit of an overlap theme wise, with like I guess like women not being allowed to do certain things or
Yeah.
participate in certain section. I think people are gonna guess what this is. I'm like trying to build up to it.
I'm sure it's
Um,
part of our like episode name and title too, so I
well, I
think
don't know.
we'll figure it out.
That's TBD. We'll
That's
see.
true. We don't figure out the title until like
We'll
last
see.
minute.
Yeah. Shh. We have everything planned out, everybody.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Um, where was I going with that? Right. So there are certain like things that women were not allowed to do. Still are.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, in as a sort of like background to the story, and then some woman like still finds a way to participate, and the way is by like what's the word? There's a word like not posing, like whatever.
No.
Im- impersonating,
Imitate? Impersonate.
impersonating
Ah.
a man. And so this is the story of Hua Mulan. Uh,
Ooh, dramatic.
I know, right? Big surprise. But well, so obviously it's a story that like a lot of people grew up with thanks to like the Disney movie.
Of course.
Um, I've never heard it as like a folk tale, but I learned recently that it is also like a story, and apparently it was a ballad.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of like written out in song or like as a poem. Um, and then Selena and I recently watched with our other friends the live action.
Mm-hmm. Now we
So
mentioned it in the Friends Forever episode, but we never followed up on it. So now this is our
right,
follow up on it.
if you're one of the small number of people that listen to that episode and is also listening to this episode, this is what you've been losing sleep over for the last 2 weeks. What
Yeah,
did we
yeah.
think of the live action? No, we'll talk about that a bit too, but it's sort of like something that people are talking about a bit more. So we thought it would be nice. I was curious about the original story. Have you heard it before?
I
You know the
never
story.
heard it
You haven't heard
before, like I watched Mulan. I mean, I didn't really grow up with like a super like Chinese background, I guess you
Right.
could call it. I didn't, like, my parents didn't, like, read me folktales or, like, whatever. They tried to Americanize
Gotcha.
themselves when they were here, so.
Oh, interesting. Maybe that's another episode in the making.
Another episode.
Um,
We're really teasing you guys with all these, like, episodes.
I think we're just trying to like plan our own schedule out, but hopefully it works as teasing. Anyway, yeah. So I'd never heard of the like ballad, and I haven't still like found it in a form that I can just like read the ballad. I don't know if you have that, but
I didn't look for it.
yeah. It's just
It's just like a general overarching story of like the basics of Mulan, I guess.
I mean, a lot of the plot points, like the main things, are correct. So like, or they match rather the folktale where Mulan's father is like unwell, and so she doesn't want him to join the army. So that like that kind of background is typically consistent across the different versions. And then her posing or impersonating like a man to join the army is also
That's the big one.
yeah, that's basically without that the story wouldn't really exist. But well, there are versions where there's like another woman warrior who like knows of her identity. Yeah, there's like then there's a version I saw where like the her father and her family know that she's going to fight in his stead. So there are different versions, I think, of like how alone she is in the journey. There is sometimes there are other female characters who are also warriors.
Right.
And who like support her, or like the emperor's daughter will like be in on the thing, and like they become sort of like they form a sisterhood. There are also different endings in terms of like the war itself. Typically we see Mulan like win and come back home, or like and then ultimately like get recruited to like join the emperor's army, or like chamber or whatever. But there's a version apparently where like China loses the war, and yeah, Mulan, and I think this is the same version where there's like the empress's daughter is also involved, and so they both get like sentenced to, well, death, and then they don't die, but it ends like very tragically. There's some, I was like, no, this I don't want to read this one. So but the gist is that yeah, Hua Mulan replaces her aging father. She serves the country, disguises herself as a man, fights bravely in the army.
Yeah. Wins great honor.
Yeah, yeah. But oh my gosh, we can discuss the honor thing because I think someone made like a TikTok or an Instagram video being like, "BRB, gotta go restore my honor for the 5th time this day," because it's like such a theme, and
yeah,
like
they do say it a lot in the live action. They say a little bit too much, I think.
yeah. That I think even the Disney. I mean, there's the song, of course, like "Honor to Us All," but that's one. And then people always make comparisons to like you haven't watched Avatar, but
No.
Zuko is like the anti-hero-ish character, and so his whole background story is like he needs to restore his honor, and it's someone counted like how many times they make him say honor, and it's like so ridiculous. I mean, we can just again, oh my gosh, this is another episode, but we can talk like there is a sense like some people were sort of like it's problematic how much like honor is overemphasized as this theme, like depending on the is ethnic the right term? I think so. Ethnic like background of a character, because there's this like almost caricature of like East Asian characters who are like fully just driven by this concept of like restoring honor, or like
Yeah,
bringing
it's
honor.
like a stereotype.
Yeah.
Yeah, or a trope that's commonly used.
Right. And that's funny. I mean, I know we didn't cover like every kind of story there is, but we actually didn't discuss honor at all until this point. So I'm not saying, obviously, it's like a theme in the sense that like people care about it, but it is, I do wonder like when that became such a prominent plot point in these like adaptations. And I wonder how, I have a feeling they weren't as much of like a central plot point in maybe the older versions of these stories.
Yeah. I mean, I think it has, I don't know, it might have something to do with like, I think when these folklore, like these stories are told, I think this is maybe, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but like it's probably like one person in a village that knows these stories and then like says them, and then like maybe like another traveler maybe adds onto the story, something like that. So
Right.
typically I think these stories are stories that people want to hear, that are very like heroic in some way. So I guess the honor part kind of comes into that.
Mm.
um like that's like the only thing I can think of. But it is very common, I think, in these like these East Asian stories where like honor or maybe like respect or something is like a big common theme in like these fables, to
Yeah.
teach like kids, or to teach whatever to whoever is listening.
Yeah, I mean that's a big thing too, right? They have some sort of like parable like quality where there's some moral or some like value
Mm-hmm.
that is important to like the sort of like the people that the stories come from, who the stories come from. So there's like it's an interesting way to learn, I think, about like what is important in different cultures, depending on what a story is trying to teach you. Um, but I also take back what I said about not having the ballad. I do have a translation of
Oh,
the ballad.
it's
And
like
it doesn't.
it's
Go ahead.
is there anything interesting specifically that you didn't mention in the ballad? It's like kind of cool.
Um, I think it's like no, it's just what's the word? It's the same story. Like it's she sees that her father is being like conscripted, drafted, and she goes ahead and like replaces her father. I think here they know in this ballad at least that I'm
Okay.
seeing. She doesn't seem to have a conflict leaving them. She said, I said farewell to my parents in the morning, and by evening I was sleeping by the Yellow River. But she might have just said, like, bye, I'm off to the market, and then doesn't come home.
Yeah. I think
Um,
like the not telling their family is like more dramatic, so maybe that's what is more common. Or I mean, I guess that's what Disney adapted
right,
to.
right. But there's definitely no love story in this one.
Mm.
So,
Yeah, that's like another thing that the the um the cartoon and the live action kind of added on. I guess the
yeah,
live action's based on like the animation, but
right,
you know.
right, at least in part. Yeah, but the live action also took, like, a different take on it
Mm-hmm.
in terms of changing up some of the characters, but in a I did enjoy when watching the Disney as I was gonna say as a kid, but I watched it as recently as like 2 months ago.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah. It's a
anytime I
great
watch it,
movie.
that's what I'm saying. I think it's like a lot of Disney adaptations are fully focused on the love story,
Mm-hmm.
and this one was a lot more balanced. Like yeah, of course there was some sort of romance, but like initially Shang is actually sort of like an obstacle, and
Mm-hmm.
he also grows as a character. He thinks like these things about women, and then he realizes like Mulan is a woman, and he's like never
Yeah.
mind, and then he's like I'm a feminist now, not in so many words, but that's the assumption.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And if you go
I'm
on to sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. Go
I
ahead.
was just saying, if you go on to watch like Mulan, I haven't seen Mulan 3, like the Disney one, but I've seen
I didn't
Mulan
even know there was
2.
a three.
Yeah,
I saw
yeah.
one and two.
I saw 2. I do like Mulan 2. I thought I was going to really hate it, but I enjoyed it for the most part. But there's a really, you see like the sort of character development like keep going
Yeah.
in terms of like Shang as somebody who initially would have been like absolutely no, and not supported Mulan as somebody who goes on to like really open his mind, so to speak.
Yeah,
What were you
I
going to
agree.
say?
I was just gonna say I appreciated. I think when I was a kid, I especially liked Mulan because, well, one, it was like Chinese,
Right.
um, or Chinese adjacent, um, but as also because like that's one of the least. I say least like very sparingly, but least adapted weirdly stories that Disney has done.
Mm,
Like if you think of like the Brothers Grimm stories, obviously like Cinderella is a very bloody story
yeah.
in the Brothers Grimm, and they like really kind of make it not so bloody and gross, and they really like evangelize it in a way. But I think Mulan, they kind of keep a lot of that like that tone, which is like what makes it really stand out in the Disney princess like
Mm,
line up, whatever you want to call it.
No, I
Kind of nice.
agree.
Kind
I
of
agree.
refreshing.
I think it is more perhaps true to the original. I mean, I know people are upset in terms of like the. Well, I think people are. I don't know if I've heard that many problems or like complaints against the Disney one.
Like the animation.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we were babies when it came out, so I don't know what the general. And I think there was less
think,
like open conversation about like accurate representation and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I agree. I think like the general what I've heard is like it's funny. I think people appreciated it because it was funny, and it wasn't like super wholly accurate. But I mean, there's no true folk tale that's like the
Right.
folk tale, right? So they could have kind of taken it in any direction.
Right, that's true. And they do seem to, like we discussed, the sort of like major, like the plot points that make the story are are
They're
there.
there.
Yeah.
What did you think of the real life adaptation, the the one that just came out?
I think I'm conflicted on a lot of levels because, like, I also, it's one of those things where when somebody remakes something you're really attached to, it's like really hard to,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like,
I think a lot of people had that same opinion.
yeah. And we do this, for context to everyone. My camera just zoomed out. Anyway, for context, we've been watching like the Harry Potter movies,
Yeah.
as sort of like a friend thing to do, as whatever we do our movie
every
night.
few
So
days.
yeah, but like Selena and always, I've started. I think I'm just gonna text you because I think it really bothers the other people who haven't like read the books or aren't as like obsessive, because every
Chitika and I
5
always
minutes
talk about these like little tiny details
wasn't
that
like
maybe
this in the
aren't in the
book.
books, or I mean aren't in the movies. Sorry, or that should have been, or that they changed.
Yeah, or like things they made up. Oh, that could be another
yeah.
series if we discussed like
Things that
movie
they didn't
adaptations.
include.
Yeah, but it's like it's easy to sit on the outside and be like, well, this is wrong and that's wrong. But it's like it's a hard thing to do, to take something really loved and like culturally relevant and then try to re reproduce it.
That's how I kind of feel about all of the Disney live action
Yeah,
remakes.
it's
I mean,
yeah.
I think a few of them were okay. I think the Beauty and the Beast one
I was just gonna say
was lovely, and the what was it, the other one? The
Aladdin?
Aladdin one was okay.
That was pretty good too. Yeah.
It was okay. It wasn't amazing. Although I wasn't like super obsessed with the
Yeah.
animation, the animated one. And then is there any other ones? Oh, I guess Lion King. That was sad.
I never watched that one. But
didn't
Lion
watch
King
the
has a
live adaptation.
no.
Oh,
Kind of forgot that was a thing.
you don't need to watch it. It's okay.
Good to know.
Yeah. I mean, I think like it's a really hard, like you were saying, really hard like situation to be in when you're adapting something, reproducing it, because there's already like a precedent and
Yeah.
like a success level
Right.
of how good it was, and like you either copy it shot for shot, and redevelop it and like twist like whatever, which is what Lion King did, or you like kind of add more characters or like change the characters in some way, which is kind of what like Aladdin did.
Yeah.
And then I guess in Mulan they like changed.
The
I
focus?
see where they were coming. Yeah, they changed the focus. I see where they were coming from. Like they were trying to be more like serious or more
Yeah.
true to the folklore. So that's like another approach. And in my opinion, I don't think it was like super successful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't hate it though. That's the thing.
I think that's where I am.
Yeah.
I don't definitely didn't hate it. And there were
thought
some
it was-
parts that were like, in a way, like you can think of VFX and it was kind of well made.
Oh yeah.
From that
it was
perspective.
beautiful in that way.
Yeah. And I did enjoy like, yeah, like the actor that played Mulan, I think she did, a good job. I think there was like a lot of good moments. But besides also, I think comparing, it's one of those things, I guess, like when somebody takes something up and like they want to sort of like reinvent it, then you want them to really do it well. And it was sort of like in between. I think there were leaps that they could have, if they were going to make leaps, they should have just made the leaps.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
committed.
Like they were too reserved in some places, and
Yeah.
maybe a little too exaggerated in another.
Yeah,
I think also one thing that I was really frustrated about was it's really, really short. It's maybe not even 2 hours. which in my opinion is really hard to do in like the way that they're approaching the story. Like this is a very like I don't want to say thrillery, but very like live action, very action based like
Yeah.
sequence of events. So, I mean, you could just look at like the Lord of the Rings movies, or like I cursed. Just look at like
You can bleep it out.
the Harry Potter or like the Lord of the Rings movies, or any like of these action based like stories that are super long. They're like 3 hours.
Yeah, they are.
And that only tells like what like maybe one part of the story. But I think Mulan maybe tried to compress it too much and then cut out some like really important like character and world building like bits that could have maybe improved it. So.
Yeah, and there was a sense of like you know when you like are writing like a timed essay in an exam and you like spend too much time on the first 2/3 and then you have to go like really quickly finish it. That's how it felt. Because there was so much like they took so much time and patience with the matchmaking scene, for example, in the beginning. Like I really enjoyed that. I was like, that was actually as close to the real thing I could have expected.
Yeah.
And I just wanted the cricket and like the song, which I knew wasn't going to be in the movie. So like I went in without that expectation, you know. But like compare that to the scene where, spoiler alert, to the scene where they find out she's a woman and then there's like basically no resistance. Yeah, but there's like no like pushback. All the other people are like, ooh, yeah, like like everyone in there could, based on the law, like they're all supposed to be, even if for whatever reason they were like closet feminists, which I doubt, right? Because that's not believable. They should have technically like died for what they said. And so it's one of those things of like, how did, and what I there's no, they don't show like enough of the relationship between her and like her friends in the army for it to be believable that they would support her no matter what, like at the risk of their lives. What?
Yeah. It's not like like I was saying, they don't do enough character and world building, which is like super important when you're doing like a super heavy action sequenced movie.
Right.
Which is what they try to do, which I appreciate, but I think they could have done it better.
Yeah.
I hope that you guys enjoyed that. We tried to kind of, I mean, I want to talk about like the political and like whatever issues that are behind Mulan and those things. But I think we're kind of out of time, so maybe we'll talk about that in a different series.
We can come back to it. I think
that's an interesting topic.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, but for now, we have just scratched the surface of what is obviously a treasure trove of partially true, not true stories and creation myths.
Yeah. And I think China's like one of the oldest civilizations, so there's always something to investigate here.
Yeah, and that's what I love, right? These are like older stories or like histories that are not as well recorded. Like, of course, they're recorded better than other who knows who was around at the time. But it's one of those things where like because of the time and the like platforms, so much is just like potentially changed or lost, and you sort of like almost don't know what you're interacting with beyond a certain point. So I think that's what makes it really exciting. You're just kind of like trying to, you can just make a really good guess.
Yeah, and then like how it like fits into our current culture too is like,
oh yeah,
it's cool. Yeah, the yin yang, and then like the zodiac sign, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think at the very least, this will give people something interesting to talk about at dinner. You can be like that person.
Mention, I don't know, mention what's interesting for them to mention at the dinner table.
That they have a really cool podcast that they listen to.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for listening. Make sure you guys rate us and give us 5 stars.
Some stars.
Give us a review on iTunes if you're interested. Maybe we'll read them out. That's like a thing that podcasts do, right?
Yeah, it could be fun.
People give out 5-star reviews, and we'll read your something or other.
Exciting.
All right. Anything else?
No, I think that's it. Just we're good. Just thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.